74% of database professionals report being impacted by downtime and performance issues, and 53% of organizations express concerns over security, compliance, and data breaches. My name is Paul Nashawaty. I am the practice lead and principal analyst at theCUBE Research covering app dev practice. I'm joined by Peter from Percona. Peter, how you doing?
Hey, doing great.
Great to have you here. Do you want to introduce yourself and the company to the audience?
Oh, yes, sure. So my name is Peter Zaitsev. I'm founder of Percona, and we have a company which is helping customers to run open source databases better. And we've been doing that now for almost 20 years.
Excellent, Peter. Thanks for joining me today. This is really exciting times within the market. When we look at open source and we talk about what's happening in the space, there's a lot to kind of consider. Whether it's open source adoption, what organizations are trying to achieve, vendor lock-in is an area, and we see enterprise increasingly moving away from vendor lock-in and really, looking to move their organizations to adopt open source database technologies like MySQL or PostgreSQL or MongoDB without sacrificing enterprise-grade performance and support. How do you see Percona and the market changes around open source adoption and your unique value and how you kind of position it?
Yeah, well, first, I will be picky a little bit of terminology here because I have to. MongoDB is not really open source anymore. They're there, but now they are what is called the source available database, which doesn't give you the whole freedoms what the open source databases or open source technologies provide. But you're right, in the end, there is a lot of move to the open source, right, and some of source available technologies as well, because they do help with their vendor lock-in. And I think it's especially big now because of politics playing an additional role in this regard. I think what is important in this case and what enterprises are doing, they understand what's just doing the open source as going to the internet and downloading some open source package or grabbing something from GitHub is not really way to go. They usually want to do the open source with a partner, right? And that is where the term of enterprise open source comes in, right? Where there are companies, and Percona is one of them, specializing in helping those large organizations to be successful with open source while hopefully avoid vendor lock-in.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, actually, when I look at my research, right, I'm understanding the adoption rate of open source and where enterprises are going. We find in our research that organizations, actually 68% of organizations are looking to work with vendors that sponsor open source initiatives and projects. But yet those organizations don't want to go at it alone. They want to work with the vendors that have the sponsorship because they offer support and tooling across those distributed environments and open source environments without having proprietary lock-in. And that's an area that we're seeing a lot of uptick in the research. So what do you, from that perspective, do you think that the audience here listening, how would they benefit from using open source, not just from the community perspective, but also using it from like avoiding that vendor lock-in, so to speak?
Well, yes, I think when you think about open source and avoiding vendor lock-in, it is not just about price. Because I think if you look at a lot of proprietary companies, they are looking to get you hooked, right, and make the initial use very inexpensive and free, right? But over time, with significant use, it becomes more expensive. And I think this is especially important with databases because databases are very, very sticky. Once you start putting a lot of data and relying in significant way on the database, it's often becomes very hard to move. right? That is why we have, for example, many databases are still using Oracle, even though there was a move to open source database which started more than a decade ago, right? That's makes a database important starting point from starting your open source journey, right, to reduce the vendor lock-in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it has to do with the adoption, because you were talking about the growth and looking at this has been a trend that's happening over several years, if not 10 or more years, as moving forward. Cloud native environments are really starting to kind of foster that growth and moving away from the traditional relational kind of environments and moving towards more of a open source kind of a approach for database. But I think when we ask that question around cloud native environments, database performance and scalability comes into play, right? And when we look at that, not all solutions are equal, right? When you look at optimizing your cloud environment, your cloud native environment, I guess the question I would have for you, Peter, is when we look at how organizations are enabling scaling and high performance database operations in these dynamic environments, how do businesses shift towards cloud native architectures and using Kubernetes as part of this, as part of their ecosystem?
Okay, so first, I think it's good to cover in what way you can use the cloud, because not all the way or using the clouds are created equal. And I think the cloud itself is a very general and sometimes misunderstood term. You can really use the cloud in a very proprietary way, right? For example, a lot of cloud hyperscalers like Amazon, they are going to try to make you use very proprietary solutions which are available only on their cloud. And they may be wonderful, but that's also the opposite of a vendor lock-in, right? And then the other approach is to use the cloud as a commodity, basically something which conveniently provides you the compute resources, storage, network, and so on and so forth, right? And that is where Kubernetes and all this cloud ecosystem, cloud native ecosystem, comes in play, allowing you to really use the cloud as a commodity and build the value through the open source, right? Though in this case, it's not as easy. It really becomes kind of more complicated, right? And that is more risks, both from security standpoint, right? From making sure you keep it highly available, performant, and so on and so forth, right? And that is where a number of new technologies are being built. For example, from Percona, we provide their tools called operators, which really help you to automate to run the databases at scale at Kubernetes. We also have this new and once again open source product called Percona Everest, which helps you to get the database as a server experience. Something like Amazon RDS graphical user interface, right? But as an open source and with Kubernetes as a backend. And I believe the maturity of the tools to run the data-intensive applications Kubernetes and in cloud native ecosystem, which is going to become a lot more robust and mature over the next 2 years.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there's no doubt that the cloud native and Kubernetes trends are really reshaping the data infrastructure for sure. There's no question there. I also think it really, you touched on a lot of these points here where, automation, the operators, the monitoring tools really address those operational complexities and performance that you'll see in today's environments, right? And that's really where organizations are trying to move from what their heritage environments to a more modern approach using cloud native and Kubernetes in order to get there. Of course, they need different ways to kind of approach this. Peter, I want to talk about something that you brought up, which is security, and I'll add in security and compliance in a distributed data architecture. This is something that obviously is a big area of concern with a lot of organizations, especially as they're moving away from their heritage environments and they're kind of moving towards the rising concerns about data security, compliance in multi-cloud environments and hybrid deployments. It really is a challenge for a lot of organizations. So when we ask the question here, with regards to our research and survey and the trends that we're seeing, what strategies and tools do you think customers need in order to maintain a secure and compliant database environment across these multiple platforms that are in the ecosystem?
Yeah. Well, first, I think security is a very interesting challenge, right? And I think that's unique in a lot of engineering environment, right? Because if you think about performance, when things go slow, you can fix them, right? If you have the downtime, you can improve your architecture, right, and have less downtimes in the future, right? But with security, often once is enough. One incident can be extremely costly for a company or even a company killer, right? And what that means is you cannot really, deal with security when it happens, right? Like as an approach which many teams use for dealing with performance or availability problems, right? And what is also unique about their security is often you are dealing with the new problems, new threats, right? And that makes it very hard to just do it alone, because your team probably will be seeing the new threats for the first time. And I think that is it's important to make sure to use their software, which allows you to elevate the security posture and compliance as well. And then also have a partner who have a capability and experience in this field. If you look from Percona standpoint, first, we do have their enterprise-grade software and the capabilities to help you with security and compliance posturing, right? Such as data at rest encryption, auditing, pluggable authentication for SSO, and so on and so forth, right? Very secure way to back up your data and so on and so forth. And to come with that, we actually have an expert in the team who help you to apply those in your environment, right? Because that is also very, very important. In so many cases, I've seen people thinking what they are encrypting the data or taking the backup, so doing something else while actually they wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think this makes a lot of sense because when I think about it, the regulations are tightening around with these organizations, and environments are becoming more distributed. What you've described is a way to really highlight that role-based access control, backup features, and security hardening capabilities that really are required for modernized cloud-native deployment. Peter, when we kind of come to the end here of our session, I really want to kind of get into for the audience, where would they go to learn more about this? There's such a lot of detail here that it's a challenge for many organizations to kind of take that first step to move forward. Where do you recommend organizations go if they want to learn more?
Well, if you would like to learn more specifically about security, compliance, and all those other challenges in regards to the open source databases, the Percona can be a great source. We have a fantastic blog, a lot of white papers, really hundreds of presentations. Our staff, including myself, have done over the years, and you can find all of that at percona.com. Also, that is where you can find a lot of our software. And what is great about that is that software is open source, and it is awesome. You can do very good by running our software, but you can do even better by running our software with our help.
I love the way you just kind of said it's awesome. I mean, that's really really cool. But I think it's important. Your passion kind of shows through. With the audience here. Whether you're a practitioner or you're a buyer or you're trying to figure it out, you can definitely go to the website, learn more. You can learn more from our market research as well at thecuberesearch.com. And we have a lot of data there as well. Peter, I want to thank you for joining us today. This has been great. I want to also thank the audience that's tuned in. We really appreciate you being part of the AppDevANGLE community. But for now, that wraps up this episode, and we'll be back next Wednesday for another conversation diving into the tools, trends, and talents shaping the application development environments. Whether you're deploying to the edge, building an AI, or modernizing your cloud stack, we've got you covered. So be sure to follow us on social. If you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to connect, you can always reach me at pauln@siliconangle.com. Until next time, stay curious and stay building. Thank you.
Thank you.